Karibu sana to another exciting episode of Hitasa. Tonight we explore digital art, its evolution and future in Kenya, as well as a story of a social enterprise tackling period poverty in Kenya. From illustrated vector drawings to animation and 3D modeling, digital art is becoming a force to be reckoned with today. Just like the other traditional art forms, the digital arts rely on creative imagination and artistic impulse. Today, we share the story of Bazil Ngode, a young lad whose journey with art began in primary school.
I was one of the last guys who experienced arts and crafts, and I really loved collaging, right? So I remember we were going to fourth class, it was class 4, and then it was scrapped. And, I was a bit distraught with that. I was like, man, now we can't, this was like the fun thing I was doing in school, and now there's no more fun anymore. And I took that, and after I finished high school, I got like my first computer. It was a laptop, and I just started looking for programs online on which to do like creative stuff, and I stumbled upon Photoshop, and Photoshop was like the first program I had on that laptop. And so I was just experimenting with like family pictures and stuff like that until I realized that, I didn't know much.
As he grew up, he went on to find out more about art in the digital space, and whilst at it, was able to identify a niche that now sets him apart.
I fell back to the collage thing that I was doing in high school. And to me, that was like the perfect idea, because I was like, okay, I can cut pictures up digitally and I can put them in this one composite. And, I can create the background, I can do that. And so that's just how I went through with it, and I got to showcase that work in 2015 in a festival called Africa Nouveau, where I was hired as an art director. And for the most part, I hadn't seen like collages in most of the collective sector and creative collective sector. And when I did that, is like, I guess artists started doing it, or started doing it more, and it was now being sort of this celebrated thing. Most people do collages, but most people don't do collages the way I do collages. And now more and more, I'm doing more composite kind of artworks, which is like collages and a bit of animation and a bit of visual effects. And I just try and make myself better and better every year.
For Bazil, just as could be for artists with their loved ones, art was not identified as something to pursue as a career, but as he notably shares, he is one not to shy away from a challenge.
I have some cousins who are drawers, and they used to draw in high school. And I would look at their sketchbooks and I'll be amazed, like, dude, why didn't you move on with this? You could have been an illustrator and stuff like that. But, life happens, and it's just become something that they used to do. And for me, I was like, that doesn't have to be the case. You can take that and actually commercialize it.
We now get into Bazil's workspace to get a glimpse of how he creates his surreal digital art pieces.
The concept I'm trying to do here is called Cup of Uji, and basically it's a concept of which I remember back when I was a young kid. My grandmother used to give me such hot uji that would burn like my upper gums, and it was really painful. I had to wash it down with water and stuff. So I'm gonna make this cup like a swimming pool at the top here, and I'm gonna put someone with the fire suit here, and in the middle, it's not going to be actual uji, it's going to be lava, right? There's some artworks that I have to move them on After Effects because of just some specific effects that I want. But there are some artworks that I've made that I dynamic linked After Effects and Photoshop. So anything I'm doing on After Effects is going to reflect on Photoshop. Anything I'm doing on Photoshop is going to reflect on After Effects. But the last program that usually renders it, it's After Effects.
Having evolved over the years from his photography and design foundation, Bazil's visual artistry takes on a clear representation of the cultural realm of Africa.
I wasn't seeing a lot of African art in the interwebs, right? So I was doing research on different platforms and stuff like that, and all I can see is just, you know, these artworks from guys in the States, guys in Europe, and I had a bit of a problem with that because it's like, you know, we in Africa, we have a lot to show in regards to not just art, but even in music and stuff like that. And for me, I took the part of art and try and put it out there that, you know, we are here, you know, we're doing these things, you know. So I joined like different platforms just to put the art out there, and there was a really good reception of it. So here we have a guy with a fire suit, and I think about these things before I make them. I mean, I don't write them anywhere. I don't write them anywhere, but I have a concept in my head of how I'm gonna make this, and at times it becomes even better than the concept that I've thought about, and you know, that makes me happy because I'm like, cool, then I'll just take this and this will be the final form. I'm gonna add lava here, and what I do is I go on online and I look for footage of lava, and then, or for anything that I'm working on, I picture like, okay, it's lava, fine, it's hot. What does that mean? That means you need to change like the color scheme. You need to make the top of the cup a bit more red. You need to have smoke in it, like white smoke, because lava produces white smoke. So it's research as you're doing the work. It's not just piecing stuff together, you know.
As his art has evolved, Bazil is keen to share that his work aims to be more and more out of the norm.
I try and demystify the whole concept of, okay, because it's a cup, you know, it needs to be this size. A spoon needs to be this size. No, for me, I try and I warp the reality of it and make it just a bit something that you don't see outside. Because I remember telling a creative that I don't wanna paint eagles. I don't wanna paint a flower plant, you know. I don't want to do these things that with my eyes I can see them, that readily exist in the realm of my vision. I want to do something that's different, and with the concepts that I create, it's usually there's something different in it that you really don't see with your eye outside here. So with the concept of like a lava in a cup, you know, scientifically, lava is supposed to melt metal. But now that you have a lava in a cup, that presents a different kind of perspective. So we're gonna add a bit of cup texture here. This is just for, I made this as an ode to my nostalgia, which was these kinds of cups. We had a lot of these cups in Ushago. And I remember a cup that had a familiar kind of texture and portrait that my grandmother used to drink from. So now we're going to add a bit of background to it. I have this image of like it's sort of like a sunset in one of the, is it African houses? But it's like a pool in front of like an old sort of mabati looking kind of house. So I'm gonna take that and just cut it a bit and implement it on the background. Now you can see the artwork comes to life. And really, I don't plan for like this background. I usually test it with like different kinds of backgrounds. Yeah. So I can like, at the end, I'm like, okay, I like this. And then I take that. At times it's just like a plain background. Yeah. Maybe so as to bring the foreground more. Yeah. But for this, I felt like it's cool if it has a background in it.
As the art comes to life, we are curious as to what it takes to put up an effective and reliable workstation like Bazil's here.
If you want like a specific kind of parts to build the workstation, you need to like ship stuff in, and that could be a bit expensive. But also you can, depending with the budget that you have, you can take that budget and go to like a computer shop that builds computers. And say, look, man, I want a workstation, but I have this kind of budget. And I think they'll sort you out from that. It depends with what you actually want to do. For me, this one, I built it because I got more into video. Initially, I was just using a laptop. And also 3D. So that's why I built this. And for the most part, it works well for me. That's the final artwork. So it's very intricate in the sense that it embodies what I was actually thinking about when I thought about the cup of uji. Now you have the hot lava spilling out, you have the guy there, you have the beach chair there.
A creator extraordinaire, Bazil believes in pushing the limits as an artist and is always aiming to better his work with every project he handles.
For me, I've always just been like, cool, this looks cool, but I know in 1 year I'm not gonna like this. Like I'm not gonna be like, it's still a cool artwork. Yes, I made it, but I wanna do something different. So it's always just challenging myself, trying to learn new concepts, trying to learn new skills in softwares and in hardware as well, and just keep the race going. Not be comfortable with the position that you're in, no matter how popular you are.
In a growing digital world, the arts industry is taking digital art much more seriously. But as is clear, there is a lot that needs to be done even for 3D project mapping and modeling.
More and more, we are having online platforms. Even in like we have the Africa Digital Artists Collective. That's the one I know, that's the one that's more popular. And so you have a barrage of artists who are curated together, and they do different kinds of art, and they're celebrated, and they're digital artists. But it's something that's picking up, and even in this decade, I don't think it's going to be like by the end of this decade, like everyone is going to have seen that work who lives in Africa. I think it's something that's building up gradually, and as time goes, maybe we are the guys who are setting the pace for the later artists who come in, and then they have this support structure that they find, and then they're gonna build up their careers from that. With 3D in Kenya, I think it existed, but it didn't exist in the part of, there were 3D artists.
One of our key questions on the program that will keep recurring is trying to find out the place for growth in Kenya's art industry.
Most people who love the artwork, who support the artwork, are from Nairobi. You have some guys in Mombasa. That's just based on like my statistics. You don't have guys in Molo, you don't have guys in Bomet, you know, who are looking at your artworks. And that could be just because of the fact that, you know, it's not like they have better things to do. No, it's just like there are more things to worry about, like, you know, like putting food on their table, you know. And it's not something that I take insult of. I'm not emotional about that. Like, you know, you need to look at my art. No, it's just, I understand the situation that this country is in. I understand the economic state of affairs that we're in. And if internet improves and becomes more cheaper and becomes more available to even people in the villages and stuff like that, then you'd have a more increasing traction, you have more increasing engagement in the country. And that, I think, it's going to keep on building up. I don't even think in this decade you're gonna achieve that.
For now, we take a break. Here's a look at what's to come.
Attendance in school has improved. This is how we celebrate menstruation and not the other way around.
This Friday on Behind the Scenes.
It's great that if you give your life to Jesus, you all of a sudden see the difference.
I said yes, and I've never looked back. And the transformation has been tangible, it has been great.
Turning to God at that point and even tuning into family media really gave me the hope I was hoping for.
That's on Behind the Scenes this Friday at 8:30 p.m.
Research shows that 65% of Kenyan women and girls are unable to afford basic sanitary pads. Period poverty contributes to global and regional gender inequality, as women are forced to solicit help from men in order to satisfy a basic health need. Here in Kenya, Mathvi Dalal started a social enterprise aimed at alleviating period poverty after witnessing the extremes that girls were going through.
When I moved to Kenya, I wasn't practicing pharmacy. Actually, I wasn't practicing anything except yoga. So I used to go, we had a group of therapists who used to go to different slums in Kenya, Nairobi, and teach them different therapies. So I used to teach yoga and mindfulness. And so as I went to the same places a few times over a few years, maybe 1.5, 2 years, by the time I had a rapport with the girls, I realized that they weren't missing school because they were sick. It took me a long time to kind of even understand it. So to get a further understanding, I thought, okay, is this an urban slum problem? Or is it a rural Kenyan problem? What is the problem and how big is it and why is the problem? Women would go through garbage and look for disposed pads just to be able to go to work for a couple of hours, or use leaves that they can just be protected in school for a bit, or obviously mattresses and blankets and sand, and girls make pellets out of cow dung and they wrap it in tissue and use it like a tampon. So all that, I kind of started processing exactly that this is the problem. It's economy and obviously accessibility.
From its inception in 2018, PadMad has developed a product that would allow women to not only get access, but find it a sustainable way to satisfy this health need.
So this is our deluxe kit as it stands. We developed it after having lots of feedback from the different demographics that we had sent these pads to, over thousands and thousands of menstruators. Also in the UK we had a pilot scheme, so we came up with a kit which is like this. We have different products in here in terms of absorbability, size, fashion, and is it for heavy flow, light flow, etc., etc. Trying to keep in mind that everyone's menstruation is different. If you are going to go through transactional sex, for example, just to get pads, HIV risk, candida risk, for example, so secondary infections, attendance in school has improved, general dignity and the idea of this is how we celebrate menstruation and not the other way around. So there's so many other psychological, social and economic benefits that if we just say we have served 27,000 beneficiaries, it really doesn't allow you to think about the extra impact that it has made.
Beyond enabling accessibility, Madhvi and the team have had to tackle the key concerns of hygiene through education and empowerment.
And that is actually our job, is to sensitize the public of this, because you have to remember, disposable pads only came in recently, right, through consumerism. So before that, what was the population doing globally? What were population doing? And to maintain hygiene is, it's a very, the way I like to just say it, if you have enough water to wash your underwear, you should have enough water to wash these pads, because we actually teach them how to wash them, assuming they don't have too much water. And we have to make sure that we teach them enough so that they know how to maintain hygiene and make sure that the lifetime of that pad is as long as you can have it. If you have the skill to wash your pad, or you will have the skill to wash your t-shirt, for example, it's quite similar. The main core is that this product doesn't go without education, so we have to educate the girl, because we don't want to just distribute and then she throws the pad thinking it's like a disposable pad, or we want to make sure that she's cleaning it thoroughly and drying it thoroughly to maintain hygiene.
For most of these women who come from underprivileged and marginalized backgrounds, the initiative has trained them to be able to earn a living through stitching of the absorbent parts.
We started by teaching the boys and girls how to stitch pads. So we had cut cloth, we had patterns, and we'd go with needles and thread to the school and then teach them for an hour, this is how you make one pad, now go and make enough for yourselves or your mums, etc. That didn't work very well for reasons, they're very busy, they don't have the resources. So we started training mums in the community to say, okay, this is how you make the pads, go make your own business, make enough to sell within your community. And unfortunately, we had to shut that down also. The reason is that we realized that this is a hygiene product. So we don't want anyone to make a product with poor quality because the material they use is not correct or the hygiene standards are not correct. So everything needs to be maintained, and the last thing we wanted was to come with a problem, to try and solve it and come with a different problem. So we scrapped that, and now we still have that vision and mission, is to empower women who are marginalized, but we train those women, we facilitate with them with the workshops, and whatever product they make is gone through quality assurance by PadMad, and then we buy that product from them so they don't go and distribute anywhere else.
Stigma continues to be an overarching problem for the ladies as they go through menstruation, thus the need for more education that involves boys and men.
In many continents, women and girls feel shy to talk about this openly. And our whole idea is to make sure that the boys and girls understand that this is a natural thing and that we must speak about it so that they can have healthy peer-to-peer conversations. I mean, when I go to a workshop to talk about menstrual health and SRHR, I always tell the head teacher that the boys need to be part of that conversation. And probably 90% will say, no, they don't even do math together, they won't be in the same. And I always insist that I won't come until they are. It's my job to make everyone comfortable, but they need to be part of this conversation. And probably, most likely, the boys are the most inquisitive, because suddenly there's light on something which they've never been talked about. It's in their textbooks about the reproductive health, but not really practical things. What is healthy? What happens to the girls? Why it happens? Is it okay? Is it not okay? What do infections look like? How do we treat them, or how can we manage them? Practical things which go on. It's important. And also teasing, if a girl has stained their dress in class, what is the scenario which we should be looking for, and what is progressive in this society?
For over 3 years now, PadMad has had tremendous success in its work, including support from noble personalities, and as is clear, there is a lot of resolve for the future.
We're opening an enterprise section in the prison, one of the prisons here, And we hope to empower the women there, the inmates, to be able to get skill and to get some capital to be helped. When we say that if this is not just a Kenyan issue, how are we going to help solve a larger problem? Well, I don't even want to call it a problem because, you know, it's different in different countries. So, you know, we've partnered with people from Ghana in terms of influencers who've seen, okay, we acknowledge what you're doing, how can we help from our capacity? You know, we've had fashion models who've said, you know, what you're doing is for the cause of dignity, can we urge it here? So it's not exactly, you know, it's a negative way to say period poverty. It's actually for us to be able to sensitize, and ultimately the goal should be that the woman or the girl or the menstruator can actually say, I can bleed with pride.
When a girl misses school, they end up discouraged and demoralized in a society that will still make fun of their situation. This is not right. We need to take charge as a society to ensure our girls are empowered and stay in school.
I love myself. I love myself. I am powerful. I am powerful. I can give. I can give. I can receive. I can receive. And I can change. And I can change.
According to UNICEF a few years ago when they did this research, 65% of the menstruators could not afford sanitary pads or hygienic sanitary wear. 4.9 days of a secondary school girl and adolescent girls is missed per month, which is a quarter of the curriculum. And you know, what girls actually have to go through to be able to just access and afford the pads, and what it actually has the impact, secondary impact on the family and the strain, so to speak, and ultimately how it affects the dignity of the menstruators. So what I would suggest is anybody watching this is first to understand, okay, this is happening. How you can help is maybe start healthy dialogues to educate or to exchange information, and also for us to be open to realizing what actually are the alternatives. Is it impacting negatively for the environment, which is key actually, as for us to protect the next generation. We need to know that this is key. We also need to know that the mindset can change depending on who you are, where you are, how you are. It's important to embrace new products and also maybe have the conversations with dads and their children so that there's an open cultural conversations going on.
That's it for tonight's show. Remember, you can share your thoughts, questions, and comments to the SMS line 20316. Next time on Hitasa.
I like studying my paintings as I work, so that's why I think I take a lot of time.